political front, and joining us from our Pretoria studios is political analyst Professor Somadoda Fikeni. Thank you so much for joining us. It was a pleasure to have you on the program. So last week, going into the weekend, the ANC's structures, the NEC, and then the gathering of the collective, as it were, got together in Irene and discussed very important issues. And from the outside looking in, and I'm not sure if it's the media talking up these issues, but the future of the president seemed to be what's sort of occupying people's minds. After what you've heard, after this meeting, after today's ANC media briefing, are we any closer to knowing about the future of the president? Is it imminent, his departure?
I don't think it is imminent. It's going to be a long drawn process. But one thing certain, though, is that it's unlikely that the president will go into 2019 when ANC is close to elections, and it might even be triggered by the commencement of some of the legal challenges that he will be facing, that then they may persuade him to step aside. But to say that within weeks after the December conference you'd see a recall, it's rather unrealistic in many ways, and it's also a tension between political realities that we face and the wishes of some of the people to see sudden change.
What does the ANC have to balance? We've heard the president of the party say that President Zuma should not be humiliated. How do they navigate these waters, and what do they need to balance going forward?
Remember that the December conference in Nasrec, the contending parties were almost split in half with very narrow margins of victory. Therefore, one thing ANC is trying to do is to balance the issue of being principled in pursuing the issues of corruption, but at the same time being sensitive to the fact that some steps, if they are handled recklessly, might split the party or might lead to a breakaway. So that's the first one. The second one, they may just allow some of the processes which are with the judiciary and say, let the law take its own course, without the political cost of them being seen as pursuing members of this or that faction. So that's another one. So to this extent, I think their ideal situation would be to persuade President Jacob Zuma to step down as the president of the country, so that you have a seamless and smooth transition.
Why do you think that he hasn't? Because, you know, some people might say that by now he should have done the honorable thing and said, I won't put my party through this, perhaps I should fall on my sword.
There are a number of things. The first one is self-preservation. He's facing a number of legal challenges, commissions of inquiry, the State Capture Commission, and those around him are facing the same. So he might believe that if he prolongs position within power, he may stave off some of these challenges or may exercise some influence. At another level, he has a tradition of having differed with the ANC in a number of issues. Remember, the NEC of the ANC as well as the Congress had said that state capture was a problem that needed investigation. But he, in defiance of that position, was saying that there is no state capture that exists. And this was not the only thing where the party had taken certain positions or its leadership, and he would take something at variance. So when he set on certain beliefs, I guess he embraced them even at the cost of, being alienated from the party itself.
President of the party, Cyril Ramaphosa, said that the ANC is the center of power, not government. Is that to be believed? If that's the case, then it doesn't matter too much when the head of state actually vacates office.
The ANC certainly is trying to assert the notion of it being the center of power, which sends deployees to government, but we do know historically that once the leaders of the party have gone to the union building, sometimes the party itself gets governmentalized. In other words, the power shifts from Luthuli House into the union building. At this moment, what we are seeing is the chipping away of the power and influence of the current president of the country, and the Luthuli House asserting itself in a number of ways, sometimes using the fact that its new president is also the deputy president of the country. And that in itself is indicated in a number of interventions which for many years had been blocked, and all of a sudden now they seem to be moving with great speed, especially those that have to do with strengthening the state-owned companies and fighting corruption.
Do you think President Zuma will be still president and able to deliver the State of the Nation address this year, or they will take action before then?
I do think that it's a 50-50 possibility, but don't be surprised if he delivers the State of the Nation address and somewhere during the year, some months later, he is then persuaded to step aside. Even if he delivers the State of the Nation address, he might be having a very constrained space wherein ANC might demand certain things to be included or excluded from that statement, because now they might be a lot more wiser, because when in December they were about to go for elections, he announced free education without proper planning, and they had to scramble for resources, scramble for answers thereafter.
All right, we're running out of time, but one final question. A little bit earlier on this evening, we were speaking to SAFTU General Secretary Zwelenzi Mavavi, and he was speaking specifically around the asset forfeiture unit and this farm in the Free State. And he said that he found it very difficult, and in fact, he said impossible to believe that the Premier, former Premier, now Secretary General of the ANC, Ace Magashule, wasn't involved somehow in this. If it is proved that he knew or was a part, was active, what does that mean for his position as Secretary General of the ANC, and what does the ANC do?
I do think that deep into the state capture, if he gets mentioned several times, either through the act of omission or commission, that will weaken him politically. That if the situation becomes serious enough to have legal implications and even charges, then it might even eliminate him from the leadership position. ANC might just do the wait and see and allow the law to take its course, because to try and remove him politically might be sensitive at this stage.
All right. Professor Somadoda Fikeni, we're going to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed for joining us this evening, and always a pleasure getting your insights. Now, Parliament's doors will